Bench and dilemmas, captaincy, Newcastle forwards, we've got you covered. Welcome to my new YouTube show. I'm Gianni. We're going to kick off with some mid-price mids because we have to speak about Solly. Solly March looks like he's pulled his hammy, and with that in mind, knowing Brighton double, we probably need a third Brighton asset, and we probably need to be selling Solly March. So look, the obvious replacement here, guys, and we'll go through a couple of them. The obvious one, of course, if you don't own Matoma or McAllister, is just to move to that player. So for me, to move to McAllister, they're all similar prices. Now, if you already have, say, triple Brighton midfield, or you want to do things a little bit differently, you're not interested in another Brighton asset, then there are some other midfield options out there that are probably a little bit more expensive, but you might be able to accommodate. So for me, the number one pick, if I had the funds to do it, and I'm a little bit short, I have checked, would be to move away from Brighton for that spot and to consider someone like Hakpo, who has three good fixtures. So still listed as a midfielder. He won't be next year. Unlikely. I think he'll move back into the number 9 role against Leicester because he has played in both a 9 and a little bit deeper, and he's played on the left. I think it will see him as the 9 against Leicester away. He's then got Villa and Southampton, 3 must-win games for Liverpool. They're backing themselves for Champions League. Newcastle dropped points, United have dropped points. With that in mind, Liverpool think they can do it. And I expect 3 wins to close the season, and probably convincing ones with goals, which is why I like the idea of Hakpo there. Outside of him, you could look at your Man City mids. Jack Grealish is still really affordable. You expect him to start against Everton. He's now had his rest. But then, guys, a team we've overlooked has been Arsenal, right? We all sold our Arsenal assets, rightly so, probably, because we were like, okay, they've got some tough fixtures. They had a blank game week. They didn't have the doubles. Martinelli, Saka, yeah, they've gone okay, ticked along. But Odegaard in recent weeks has been smashing it. He is the club captain. He is the talisman. He has stepped it up. He's actually got more points than Saka, more points than Martinelli this year. He's the lowest owned of the 3. And again, same price as Martinelli and a lot cheaper than Saka. So I'd consider both Odegaard and actually Martinelli look really bright against Newcastle as well, as I thought. They've got Brighton up next at home. Tough fixture, but you expect goals. You expect them to score. Then they got Forest and Wolves to close the season. And again, they have to win every football match to have a chance of winning the title. So again, we could look to reinvest funds back into Arsenal. But one team we are investing funds into this week is Newcastle. And I mentioned at the top of the show, we're going to speak about Newcastle forwards. We did a bit on it last week, but I want to do another little deep dive and look at some of the numbers I've got from Scout on Newcastle forwards, because Wilson versus Isak is a debate that's going to go on every day now this week. Many at the weekend thought we would see Isak start and Wilson benched against Arsenal. For those of you that watch my YouTube show every week and follow me on Twitter, you'll know I was pretty vocal about the idea of both of them maybe starting together. And I bought in Callum Wilson. I fancied him to start, and he started. Did I get any points? No, so wipe this smile off my face. But I was just delighted to see him have a chance to play together. Now, did that work out? It's hard to say. It's one game against one of the league's best teams. Isak left Wilson central. We have seen that in some second halves, and it has worked well. I expect and I hope Eddie Howe gives them another opportunity to start a football match together, because this was the first time we'd seen them start in the Premier League. But a lot of it hinders on Longstaff, and the reason why I was confident of a Wilson start was Longstaff was injured and wasn't pictured in training on Friday. I went through every photo on the Newcastle website, which meant Joel Linton plays in the midfield 3, not wide left. St Max was also not ready to start. He featured off the bench. With that in mind, Isak came onto the left. That might not be the case this time round, so we got to look at minutes for the double game week, and we look at the Newcastle fixtures, and I fancy Isak to start both against Leeds and Brighton. There is a good chance Callum Wilson only starts one of them, which is annoying and maybe swings you in the Isak direction. But let's take the last 7 game weeks and have a look at some of these numbers. So, starts, Isak 6, Callum Wilson 3. Minutes, 550-ish for Isak and just shy of 400 for Callum Wilson. But it's the output that really matters, right? And when we look at the goals and the expected goals from them, Callum Wilson absolutely wins. He scored 8 versus 4 to Isak. And the assists are similar. The goal attempts are similar too, but the bigger chances, the higher volume, the higher XG chances do fall to Callum Wilson, who is more of a predator. And look, of course, Isak's a little bit more provider. We see a higher assist threat there, and especially if he's playing out left. If you want to go security of minutes, Isak's the pick. If you want to go perhaps for the most explosive option, despite fewer minutes, then I do think Wilson is there. But it's risk. What's your risk appetite? Is it higher because we're later in the season? I think it probably should be. Or you go both. You go both, and you just go Newcastle conceding every game anyway. I don't want double defence. I'm going to sell a Newcastle defender, take a hit, bring in, I've got 2 free transfers anyway, and go Trippier, Isak, Wilson. If I could do it easily without surgery, that would probably be my dream 3. So you can go both. And then captaincy has to be discussed as well, because if we're giving them the armband, do you give your Newcastle forward the armband? And if you own both, who do you give it to? I think for security of minutes, it's, as I mentioned, it's Isak. So you probably feel safer there. There's probably a bit more comfort there. But do we have to consider other options for the armband this week? So let's talk a little bit about captaincy. So it's a Newcastle forward, option 1. Option 2 is a Brighton midfielder, because we're not backing a Brighton defender against Arsenal and Newcastle, both away fixtures. You could go McAllister and Matoma. I'm not sure I fancy that. The way De Zerbi's been rotating lots as well, I wouldn't be surprised. I think both start both. I wouldn't be surprised to see one of them miss a game. So I don't go Brighton mid. I'm considering Newcastle attack. There's 2 other options, and they're massive options, and they're not on a double game week, and sometimes we are blinkered. So we have to consider for captaincy this week, as we always do, Erling Haaland. It's Everton away, but the fixtures for the Champions League spread is quite nice. It's a Tuesday, Wednesday, unlike the Milan derby, by the way, that's a Wednesday, Tuesday, 6 days. This is 8 days. So the Serie A fixtures for the Milan teams, you're going to see mass rotation. The Real Madrid team and the Man City team, you might not see the same rotation at the weekend in their league games. And I'm thinking Haaland probably starts against Everton, right? And Grealish comes back into, he's had his rest. And with that in mind, he's a great captaincy option because, yes, Everton have just beaten Brighton very convincingly. When you look at the XG Brighton put up, Everton was still all over the place at the back. I know they only conceded 1, but I still fancy Haaland and Man City to go big against Everton at Goodison. So, option number 3 is Haaland, of course. And then option 4, and I still don't know what I'm doing, option 4 has to be Mo Salah. He's playing well. Liverpool are playing well. They're not playing great. I don't know if Liverpool have clicked. It's not prime Jurgen Klopp ball, is it? But they're winning games. And Leicester, boy, do they look bad. They are conceding chances and goals for fun. And they're not great at home. You fancy Liverpool to win big against Leicester on Monday Night Football. So Salah has to be an option. The beauty of Salah is we know we're going to get 90 minutes from him. We don't know we're getting 90 from Haaland. We know we're getting more than 90 from Isak. And we should get more than 90 for Matoma, McAllister, Wilson as well, right? But that's no guarantee. Like Wilson could get 100 minutes versus Salah's 90, and then we're like, why have I been blinkered by the double game week? So look, you've got 4 good options there. It's your Newcastle forward, your Brighton mid, Haaland or Salah, the single game week assets. If I was to punt on one of them now, it's too tight to say. I'd say I'm probably Callum Wilson just because it's 2 bites at the cherry. But I need some good press conference quotes from Eddie Howe about that combination because I'm nervous of starts there. If I go on a single game week player, I think it's more likely to be Haaland than Salah, if I'm completely honest, despite the fear of Haaland coming off at 45 because City are cruising. But if City are cruising, it means Haaland's probably got points, right? So there we go. Captaincy debate will continue all week, and on Friday, no doubt, I'll know a little bit more. Okay, guys, we're going to move on to some Talking Tactics back by popular demand. Thank you for your comments by people saying, where's Talking Tactics gone? We want it back. So, as always, or as we've been doing previously, we'll bring it back. 60 seconds on why Man City are full of good FPL options. Let's start that clock. The pass map versus Leeds was good as it always is. A clear identity. Ake comes back in at left back. We like that. And the right back is that inverted role. It's Rico Lewis coming in. We've seen seen Liverpool do it with Trent, but Pep's been doing it most of the season with Man City. And what we see when we see a back three, you just have more men in the middle. It allows Foden and the wide men, Mahrez, to push up even higher because you don't have fullback width. And the wide forwards are really, really threatening. And we saw Mahrez with 2 assists. And we know Mahrez is often the Premier League guy. He's a good differential for the running guys. Look at the amount of passes that go his way. Deserves his 2 assists. But Haaland too. How did Haaland not produce big points versus Leeds? Shots galore. Didn't take the pen. Hits the woodwork. The points are always going to come with Haaland because this team is clicking. And this team is producing chances and dominating possession. KDB a little bit deeper. Keep an eye on that. But we know with KDB, he can move around anywhere. He'll get your points. There we go. That was 60 seconds. So look, clearly, I'm pointing out KDB as an option, Mahrez as an option, and as always, Haaland. When Grealish comes in on the left instead of Foden there, he'll continue to be a good FPL pick as well. So there we go. So that was 60 seconds on. It's always just good to see the sort of shape of these teams and the routes to where they're looking to build up their phases, and between the posts, and that graphic where it's from between the posts do that really, really well. So I'm always scrolling through their maps to check it out. But look, enough of that. Let's see how I got on in game week 35. Let's check it out. So game week 35, it was a low scoring average, wasn't it? Most teams I saw had only 1 player or 2 players or 3 players with returns. I had 2. I got about average, right? It's pretty much a grey arrow, 176. I got 1 free transfer and 2.2 million in the bank. We'll get to that in a sec, but let's see who actually got me points. Well, it was Trent, thanks. It was Salah, thanks. Fair play to those that punted against Haaland and went Salah. I mean, you probably got a tad lucky because Haaland should have produced points. But look, well done to those that had the minerals to go against Salah, to go against Haaland and go Salah. I like that. And Liverpool, as I mentioned, like Hakpo is now an option for me, or would have been if I could afford it. But getting a third Liverpool asset, I really do, because I just like the fixtures for the run-in. I think they'll win all those games quite convincingly. It's a good lineup. Just to recap that, it's Leicester, it's Villa, and then it's Southampton. They need to win all those games. And Trent's performing well. I expect Trent to get more attacking involvements between now and the end of the season. In this new midfield role, Trent's even more of a threat. Definitely more of a goal threat because he gets shots in. He never really shot as a fullback, only really from dead balls, from like free kicks. Now he's got goal threat, and the assist threat is from different positions on the pitch, but he still absolutely carries it. Elsewhere in my team, I've got 2 hamstring injuries in Chilwell and March. Thank you for your blanks. Estupinan didn't deliver on a 0, and Callum Wilson, despite the start, just a 2-pointer. But thank you, Matoma. Useful to get the 5. So I did actually get 3 players returning. I'm completely wrong there. It was 2 Liverpool and, of course, Matoma. So let's have a look how I'm set up for game week 36. There are only 3 game weeks left. I'm ready for a little break, but I want a big 3 weeks. I want to end the season on a high. And with a double game weeks, we can all do that. We can chase down our mini leagues. We can chase fixtures. We've got a double game week this week, which is only 2 teams, Brighton and Newcastle. But then next week, it's a nice double. And there's different routes to go down. Many will take a punt on Bruno, but might have to sell a Salah. Bruno plays twice. Chelsea have a double. Will we be looking at any of their options? Maybe if they win again this weekend. I don't know. But there's good options. Man City, is it time to punt on Mahrez or Foden or whoever? Or, Jack Grealish and De Bruyne points. I'm pumped for the doubles ahead. And at the moment, we can see my team. I've got a back 4. Trent Alexander-Arnold is in on a single game week. I've seen him on a few benches. Don't do it, guys. Don't bench Trent. At the moment, I'm going to be going March to McAllister as my transfer. I've got money in the bank, 2.2. It doesn't get me up to a Hakpo. It does get me up to, say, a McAllister. Or I decide to roll my transfer and just go, do you know what? I'm going to play Jack Grealish. And I'm going to have 2 moves next week. That is an option. That is a legit option that I am considering. If I make a move this week, it'll be March to McAllister. But I can't see myself making many or any other moves. It's that, or it's a roll. I play Grealish, and then next week I've got an additional transfer to target an extra United player, which I need for their double. So I have 3 United, but I also want an extra City player. So having 2 free transfers allows me to then go have triple City and triple Man United. Definitely worth thinking about. And I can do that if I don't go McAllister, or I go McAllister and just take a hit next week. That all options. At the moment, I've got Callum Wilson with the armband. I could swap that to Haaland. I really could swap that to Haaland. I think it will be one of those two front men. I mentioned the 4 sort of options, not 4 players, 4 options earlier in the show. I think it will be one of my front men. And there we go. Jack Grealish, I really don't feel comfortable benching. So maybe he does have to come in. Double Newcastle defence and even a Stupinan. I'm not expecting too many clean sheets there. Like Newcastle Brighton, I mean, maybe 0-0 would work out to be a good result there. If you don't captain a Newcastle asset, you probably want 0-0 in that fixture. But Newcastle versus Leeds, you expect Ellen Road, Big Sam's team to score, I think. But you expect Newcastle to win. And then Brighton, they concede against Arsenal, don't they? Surely at the Emirates. But you always back Brighton to score. So it's an interesting one. I don't think we're overly comfortable with our Brighton and Newcastle assets this week in terms of expectation. We maybe are expecting sort of many of them to carry a sort of 5 to 8 point threat rather than he's got a 15 pointer on him. I don't think we necessarily see that. So that's how I'm set. I mentioned captaincy. I've mentioned transfers. In terms of benching dilemmas, guys, I just want to touch on, because many of us have got this dilemma, and drop comments. And I know I'll get a ton of questions saying which one to bench. It's always a popular theme. Benching candidates this week, for many, are between, do I bench my Newcastle defender? Let's say you got 2 of them, Botman. Do I bench a Brighton defender, a Stupinan? Do I bench Jack Grealish or do I bench Trent? Well, you can see from the team I've just shown you that I'm not going to be benching my double game weekers, I don't think. And I'm not comfortable benching Trent. Not at all. I think it's crazy people are benching Trent, right? I've just said about his goal threat and his assist threat. It's absolutely there. Clean sheet against Leicester at home, Leicester away, maybe not, but you expect attacking returns. So for me, Trent has to play. I'd always back my double game weekers to play. So Jack Grealish probably is the one that has to miss out of all those 4 options. If I was benching a double game week player, it would be a Stupinan over a Newcastle defender. Because simply, when you look at the fixtures, Newcastle play Leeds away, Brighton at home. 1 clean sheet is very possible there. They've been so good at clean sheets earlier in the season, rubbish of late. Brighton clean sheet, I think I'm going to see a 0 for Brighton clean sheets. They're not going to keep it clean against Arsenal, are they? And probably not against Newcastle. So push comes to shove, if you're benching a double game week player, it's probably a Stupinan. Then you might be questioning, is it a Stupinan or Trent? And I'll leave that one to you. But for me, as mentioned, Trent would be in that 11. Guys, that's all we got time for this week. Thank you for joining and thank you for all your love. Loads of you have been subscribing in recent weeks. That's been awesome to see. It's kept my morale high despite some average ranks. So if you fancy it, guys, do hit that subscribe button. Of course, like, comment, and I will see you next week.